for how I look. I'm a little under the weather today. But yeah, so right now, for those who live in the 27th Assembly District, there's a special election coming up for state assembly. There's obviously a special election coming up September 12th, early voting September 2nd, and August 28th is the last day for requesting absentees. I have some pamphlets in the back. We have a lot of issues we need to fix in Albany. We currently have a horrible, disastrous crime policy with cashless bail, which we see people commit crimes and they're back on the street sometimes hundreds of times. We need to replace that with proportional bail, where we have a bail set to what the severity of the crime is and number of offenses. The old system was broken, I'm willing to admit that, but what they have now is even worse. And we need to fix that. We also need to fix many other policies. For instance, they have several other policies like clean slate, where certain criminal offenses after a certain number of years are wiped off of people's records, when in the past you had to apply with a judge and there was a whole process. The reason for the process is to make sure people knew if someone was still a threat or not. An automatic wiping of the record is not the way to go. They're trying to say it'll help ex-cons get employment easier. Instead of just clean wiping the record, just make it easier for a review process. They're saying they have good intentions, but they're using progressive solutions rather than rational solutions. Additionally, we now have the city putting migrant camps all over Queens, Brooklyn, everywhere. Now, what happens is the federal government has no clue what to do, so they dump it on the states. Hochul has no clue, she dumps it on the local areas. Mayor Adams just says, dump it in the neighborhoods and it's out of sight, out of mind. Places like Creedmoor or St. Agnes or all those other places. We have no clue who's coming into our neighborhoods. We're hearing cases of rising crime in areas because we have no clue who's there. If the city wants to put a migrant facility in a neighborhood, or even the state, anywhere, the rule should be the neighborhood has to vote on it, be consulted, and how it should be done. It should be done with consent of the community. If a neighborhood wants to allow it in, then that's their choice. And then we could see if some of the most progressive neighborhoods in New York City actually live up to what they claim they want. Let them vote for it in their neighborhoods. There's many other issues also. But here's one of the critical things. Special elections have very low turnout, so every vote counts more. So even if you don't live in the 27th, you might know someone who does. And you can look at a map of the 27th on the Board of Elections website. And every vote is going to count more. And this is why the Democrats are very worried about this seat. Their supermajority is only a 2-seat majority. Now, we get this, it's 1 seat to break in the supermajority, and that's the first step to breaking the Democrat majority and ending the stronghold. They are this close to losing their supermajority, and they are terrified of that. Further, we have a Democrat opponent who is saying on one side he's going to represent the values of the Democratic Party, then he's telling other publications he's going to represent the values of the community, hosts a fundraiser with the architect of cashless bail, but then immediately afterwards says, oh, he's going to be tough on crime as a candidate. He's telling every community what they want to hear, but he's also picking up all the favors from the Democrat Party leadership, who's putting in a lot of effort to help him. So that should tell you how he's going to probably end up voting. I can't say for sure. But when you have someone who's telling everything to all groups, but cozying up also to the progressives at the same time, that is problematic. And we really need to win this seat, because if we flip this, last election, 5 seats were flipped in the assembly, 3 in Brooklyn alone. We flip this, that'll be in less than a year, 6 seats in the assembly flipped. We take that into 2024, the midterm elections for state, or what would be the federal election year, and we could slowly start the momentum to turn back the clock, back New York State to a more rational time. And we can really stop the progressive agenda. Further, a district that has traditionally been viewed as a moderate Democrat district, if it flips, like 5 moderate Democrats lost last election their seats because of the progressives. A lot of the other moderates who have been caving in are going to start waking up. And when they wake up that their seats could be lost because they see it happening, they're going to start defying the progressives, and we might even get to see a moderate faction forming that might start voting certain ways with Republicans, and we could really make momentum. So this election has a lot riding on it. There's a lot of key critical issues. I've been going around because the district is a very weird looking seat. You've got Whitestone and College Point, this little strip of Flushing with the park, and then you've got Kew Garden Hills, a little bit of Forest Hills, a little bit of Kew Gardens, like 1 ED in Kew Gardens, 1 ED in Briarwood, and then you've got Pominock and Leicester. It's this weird looking district. And I've been traveling all over it, and it's a lot of distance to cover, so it gets a bit exhausting. But a lot of people are fed up with the Democrat Party. The problem is making sure people come to show up to vote on September 12th. So hopefully everyone here who lives in the district, I hope you come up to vote. And if you don't, if you know someone, make sure they know. Make sure they come out to vote. And if someone isn't registered, up until 10 days before the election, September 2nd, they can still register to vote for Election Day. And I have some palm cards in the back if anyone wants. Thank you.
Thank you.
So when it comes to vaccines, I'll tell this personally. Personally, I am fully vaccinated, including COVID vaccine, and I took it before I was required to. I'm personally very, very pro-vaccine. On the other hand, I do not feel that, I think like something like, like the polio vaccine, which has been around since the 50s, and we have decades and decades of data that we know of, is one thing. But my thing is something where we have almost no data on that's so new, like the COVID vaccine. There's no justification, particularly on something like that. My whole thing is people have the right to choose what they put into their bodies. That includes whether you want to smoke cigarettes or take a vaccine. Personally, I'm pro-vaccine. Personally, I'm vaccinated, but I'm not for forcing particularly the COVID vaccine when there isn't enough research and data out there to even justify it potentially.
I'm just curious.